What is up, Schwartz Force? Welcome back to the channel. Now, in case if you're new here, my name's Dave. May the Schwartz be with you. And hey, did you know it's a great day to wear a watch? Today I have on the Feist FM201. This is an homage of the Nomos Tangente 38mm. Great watch. I've thrown it on a nice new strap and also changed out the buckle to a single deployant buckle. But I'll do a full review on this. I'm just giving it some wrist time. Awesome watch, I gotta say. Just heads up, it's gonna be great. So stay tuned for that. But today I want to go over a comparison of these two watches, the Blancpain Bathyscaphe Homage, like total value watches, no matter which option you go with. So in the blue corner, we have the GALLANT Dive Watch. And then in the blue corner, the other blue corner, dark blue corner, we got the Automatik Seven Seas. And I want to go through these side by side because they're almost identical at a glance. But once we get into the actual features, the finishing, some of the specs, I think you'd be surprised to see $60 versus $27. Keep in mind, as we go throughout the comparison video, which feature do you like the best about the Automatik, and then which feature do you like the best about the GALLANT? Because I want to hear your thoughts, so at the end of the video, post that comment down below. And if you end up liking it, give it a thumbs up. Now, I gotta say real quick before we get into the comparison, I'm almost at 1,000. I might even be at 1,000 by the time this video comes out. So with work, I'm gonna be busy about the next day or two. So give me a little bit of time. I'm gonna compile all the names, all the entries, get that ready, and then we'll hold that drawing for the $100. And again, thank you so much to new supporters that have come along. And also, of course, big thank you to my following that's been with me from the start. I really appreciate you guys. This is super exciting to me. And thank you so much for supporting the other channels that I had listed in my giveaway. I know they really appreciate it too. So thank you, thank you. But without further ado, let's get into this heads up comparison. All right, guys, here we go. Got the Automatik Seven Seas on the left and the GALLANT Dive Watch here on the right. And I'm just gonna go through side by side all of the features, the specs, and let you guys make a decision based on what you think is the better value. But I'm gonna go ahead and just give my points based on what I think is the better of the two. Now, a couple of things that I wanna point out, of course, are the measurements. I'm gonna give you the measurements here on the Automatik, overall case dimensions and everything. Then I'm gonna give you the measurements overall on the case dimensions of the GALLANT. Some of you may like larger watches, you may like thinner watches, thicker watches, so I'm just gonna leave that up to you, but at least you have the measurements of both side by side here to take a look at. Now, another thing that's subjective I'm gonna point out here at the start is the dial color. You know, when you look at them side by side, you can definitely see the Automatik has a darker dial color than the GALLANT. You may like that. The bezel color is pretty much the exact same. I'm gonna go ahead though and say that I prefer the blue on the GALLANT. Even though the Automatik I owned first, some lighting, lower lighting, it almost looks black, which to me clashes with the navy blue. I kind of like that the GALLANT is lighter. You can definitely tell it's a blue watch, blue dial, blue bezel. It's just easier to differentiate than the Automatik is. Now, one thing that you can't really tell on camera is, of course, the overall feel and the weight. So I'm gonna show you that here right now. So I got my scale here. The GALLANT watch does feel lighter, and it is coming in at a total weight of 128 grams. And then for the Automatik, which has a little more heft to it, is coming in right at 160 grams. So definitely a little bit heavier. They both feel nice though, I will say. For this being a $27 watch, it feels great. It is solid, and of course the Automatik just has a little bit more weight to it. Now, both of these watches have a flat crystal, but I will say the Automatik has sapphire crystal, both not only in the front, but the back being an exhibition case back also has sapphire here. So really cool to see it sandwiched between sapphire. Awesome feature, especially at this price point of 60 bucks. The GALLANT watch is just a hardened mineral crystal, and then of course solid stainless steel case back. So I gotta give my point to the Automatik for having double sapphire crystal. Now, both of these watches do have solid stainless steel bracelets, but I'm gonna give the point to the Automatik, and the reason being is a couple of things. We have solid end links here on the Automatik. They are hollowed end links on the GALLANT. The finishing is just done better. I don't know if you can see this coming through on the camera, but the satin finish and the polishing on the Seven Seas is just done a tad nicer than what we see on the GALLANT, but the GALLANT still looks great. If you don't like a whole bunch of polish, this has satin edges. If you do like polish, the Seven Seas has a polished edge. And so that's something that for the bracelet, just going to kind of be preference, but they're both nice. I will say they have both double deployment butterfly clasps, but the stainless steel here on the Seven Seas is thicker and just feels better. It's not as loose, and even when we put it into place, so I'll show you here, the Gallant just really easily snaps into place. Doesn't take a whole lot of pressure to put that in place. When we look at the Seven Seas, however, it's much more substantial, and it takes a lot of force to actually snap those in to place. And so you can really feel the tactile feel on the butterfly clasp is just nicer. So I got to give my point to the Automatik as far as the bracelet. That being said, the Gallant really surprised me to have this bracelet at a $27 price point. So good job, Gallant. Okay, next up, the bezel. So they both do have lume pips at the top. Now, surprising to see, the Gallant, it actually lines up better than the Automatik Seven Seas. The bezel alignment is just slightly off, whereas the Gallant, it's done a little bit better. So that's kind of interesting. The color on the bezel is almost exactly the same. One thing I was kind of surprised to see is that the coin edge we see here on the Gallant, the grip, it's just nicer. They're deeper, and maybe it's because the bezel comes out a little bit further. But for some reason on the Automatik, the teeth are just not done as deep. And so it's a little harder to grip over the lugs. It's kind of, you really got to put some extra pressure. Otherwise you can only really turn it easily from the sides here. Whereas on the Gallant, the teeth are just deeper, and so it's a lot easier to grab and to turn from pretty much any part of the watch. The other thing I got to point out, while the tactile feel and the sound of the Automatik is nicer, there is some back play. But when we look at the Gallant, even though it's a little tinier sounding, feels a little more rough, but there is zero back play. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually say I prefer the bezel on the Gallant. Me personally, I'm giving my point there. So we don't have crown guards on either watch, but you can see here the crown has a coin edge. It's kind of a finer coin edge on the Automatik. It does screw down as well, so that's giving us actually better water resistance there. The Gallant has deeper edging on the coin edge of the crown, but it is just a simple push-pull crown. So we lose a little bit of water resistance there. I will say both have a polished edge. They both have branding on the crown. I like the screw down function of the Automatik, but I actually like the deeper coin edge of the Gallant. But I'm gonna go ahead and give my point to Automatik because it has a screw down crown. Since we touched on water resistance briefly, let's just get into that next. The Automatik has 100 meters of water resistance. The Gallant has 50 meters of water resistance. And so obviously the point is gonna go to the Automatik screw down crown, better peace of mind with double the water resistance rating. That being said though, the fact that you're getting 50 meters of water resistance on this sub $30 watch is just a really cool feature to have. Gives you still good peace of mind that you can get this watch wet and not have to worry about it, especially with it being a dive watch. Now, when we go over the movements of each watch, of course, the Gallant has a quartz movement. I don't know the specific movement that's being used in this watch, but it is pretty nice. I mean, there's not a lot of bounce in the second hand. We have a date complication, and it just functions pretty easy. The movement on the hands is great, and I mentioned this in the review, but the date change starts at around 11 and ends before midnight, so less than 1 hour to cycle through the date. I really like that. And the date function's great, just pops into place, no problem. So for being a quartz movement, I really do like this movement in the Gallant that they've chosen to use. Now, of course, when we come to the Automatik, I gotta say, this you're getting a great bang for the buck. You're getting an NH35A movement from Seiko, great workhorse movement, super reliable. So I gotta give my point to the Automatik for the fact that we're getting an automatic movement at $60. Subjective though, because if you don't have an automatic winder, you don't want to constantly have to change the date and the time, then you may actually prefer the Gallant for that quartz movement. Now, when we look at the date window, because they do both have date complication, the 3 o'clock date window is something that you may prefer, whereas the Seven Seas has the date window at 4 o'clock. This has grown on me because I had this watch first, but really where I got to give the point to Automatik is the fact that we have a matching color date wheel to the dial. Just that at a $60 price point blows my mind. Whereas when we look at the Gallant, you know, pretty standard white date wheel, the font is fine, but I mean, the fact that we're getting this over here on the Automatik, I gotta give my point there. I do wish that the date window was at 4 o'clock on the Gallant. That's just me because I'm used to having it here on the Seven Seas. But again, it looks great there as well. Now, these watches have both been in the studio light, so I'm going to go ahead and pull them, put them in the dark, and see how the lume compares on them side by side. And I'll do a lume shot initially right out of the light, and then we'll do one at 30 minutes and kind of compare them and see which one has the better lume. So as you see, the lume lasts longer on the Automatik. It doesn't have super luminova or anything that's going to really last throughout the night, but when comparing them side by side, you're getting better lume on the Automatik, so I gotta give my point there. Last thing, of course, is the overall finishing. So both of these watches, when I got them, I hit them with my polishing cloth, just kind of do final finishing, but I will say, the feel overall, the quality is a little more substantial on the Automatik, but that's not to pull away from the Gallant. Being at 27 bucks, you're getting so much value with this watch. It's awesome, but I think the clear winner in this case, I'm gonna have to go with my Automatik. And I think that they're both great value watches. Let me know, what is the feature you like the best out of the Automatik, and what was the feature you like the best out of the Gallant? I'm really curious to see what you guys are thinking about these watches, so make sure you comment down below for me. Of course, join the Schwartz Force if you haven't subscribed yet. I really appreciate that. The next video that comes out should be that 1,000 subscriber giveaway, so keep an eye out for that. And again, thank you so much for the support. I'll look forward to seeing you guys at the next one. As always, may the Schwartz be with you. Take care.